Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. My name is Jedley. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We are coming to you from the beautiful, wonderful, historical neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so honored and delighted that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing thoughtful, thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to write books for kids of all ages. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show and let them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM FM 24/7 radio network and can find us on the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcasts, Addict, Castbox, Player FM, Boomplay, Ghana, wherever you find your favorite shows. We have two wonderful guests for you today. Yobe Qiu. Yobe Qiu is returning to the show to celebrate her debut middle grade novel. And a little bit later on, Connor Derelioglu is here to celebrate his brand new middle grade novel.
You've heard the whispers. You've seen it on TV. You may have even seen the movie. Now it's time to bring Dungeons and Dragons directly to you with D&D for Hire!
More than just a game, D&D lets you step into the role of a hero you create and guide them on fantastical adventures with your friends. Perfect for beginners and experts alike, D&D for Hire is sure to delight and entertain your kids for weeks on end.
Such a fun game. There are endless possibilities. There's so many things that you can do. It's so much fun.
Our son Eli loves D&D. It's like his favorite thing to do all week.
I was like 15 when I joined. I'm 21 now. There are people who are in our party, really learn to come out of their shells.
Whether you're near or far, whether you're looking for a birthday party or a campaign to keep you adventuring for years to come, D&D for Hire has you covered. Learn more at dndforhire.com. That's dndforhire.com. D&D for Hire,
Bringing the adventure to you.
D&D for Hire runs games digitally over Zoom or in person in select areas.
This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by And the Trees Talk Back, written and illustrated by Frederick J. Burns, a gem in children's literature. And the Trees Talk Back is an enchanting and magical story about a young girl named Amanda who discovers she can talk to trees. The magical adventure and whimsical tree illustrations will delight adults and children of all ages and will inspire kindness, empathy, caring, and courage to stand against evil and give them a new appreciation of the trees that surround us. I love this book. It's a great way to inspire kids to see those who are different and who've been overlooked and to understand that we can all be wonderful friends and that we're all part of a beautiful human family. Get your copy today. And the Trees Talk Back by Frederick J. Burns. This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by A is for Always, an adoption alphabet. Beautiful picture book written by Linda Cutting. A is for Always, with your hand in mind. Adoption's a gift that will last for all time. With gentle rhymes and lovely illustrations, A is for Always celebrates the joy and love of adoption from A to Z, with B for birth parents, Q for questions, and U for understanding. It frames challenging aspects of adoption in a way children can understand. Best of all, each page shows a different adopted family of cuddly animals welcoming and cherishing a new child. It's a beautiful book. You want to add it to your family library. A is for Always, an adoption alphabet by Linda Cutting. I'm so very, very excited. One of my favorite guests is returning to the Reading with Your Kids podcast to celebrate her brand new debut chapter book. It's called The Missing Red Envelopes. Please welcome to the show my friend, Yobe Qiu. Hey, Yobe, how are you?
Hello, I'm so excited to be back with your podcast and my friend Jed. I'm super excited to be here to talk about the chapter book that just launched. Thank you. for having me.
This is really exciting. Now, the red envelope in Asian culture, the red envelopes are pretty special. Tell us why.
They're very special. They are filled with some lucky money. It's usually, I don't know, I've gotten $20, $50, $100, and $2. But we give it in even numbers. We like even, like a whole number. And it's passed down from older people, usually folks who are married, to little children. So it's like children getting candy and Halloween. This is us getting money on Lunar New Year day. So, children love receiving stuff. It's just another celebration of like passing down good luck, and all the good stuff from older to younger generations.
So you've written a lot of picture books celebrating Asian culture and educating people to the fact that there are many different Asian cultures, that Asia has a beautiful umbrella of different cultures.
Right.
And this is a new step for you going into chapter books. I want to find out specifically about the missing red envelopes, but first, can you talk about why you made the decision to leap from picture books to chapter books?
Yeah. Yes, that's a great question, and thanks for asking. I have been doing picture books for 3 years, and I've learned everything from publishing a picture book and then selling it. The only reason why I had to go to a chapter book now is because my readers are getting older. So when I started, I spoke about my story in your podcast a few times now. It was during COVID time. My private preschools are shut down, and I wanted to write something for children. And the audience that I knew best were preschool students, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years, because I worked with them every single day in my schools. But now it's been 4 years. These 3 years olds are 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old. And I feel like, but I have, gained this fan base of students who know my work, who is learning about the beautiful Asian culture, Asian communities and our holidays. How do I keep them engaged? It was more of an education thing, than a business thing, because I had to learn so much about making a chapter book. And I think like as a self-published author, it was a big learning curve for me, and I spent way too much money trying to perfect this product. But I wanted my readers and their families to kind of know that what they're going to get, a good book, a good product, and something that can continue their experience with me so far.
Yeah. That's a really genius idea business-wise. It's, you have this fan base. They are growing. And as they say in business, it's always easier to sell something who's already to somebody who's already a customer, as opposed to getting a new customer all the time. And I know people are loath to hear that our readers are customers, but that's the reality.
Right.
Writing books, it's a business. So I love that idea. And, you're certainly not the first. I know the Harry Potter books grew with those first readers.
Right.
Book 7 was a lot different than the first book. So great business strategy. Talk a little bit about the story we're going to experience with the missing red envelopes, please.
So the story is about 2 main characters. They're sisters, and I based them off of my sister's daughters, who I've watched grow since babies. I was their auntie, and I was a really cool aunt for a very long time until I became a mom, and then I'm a different aunt to them too. And we celebrated Lunar New Year together almost every year, and I kind of saw their experience. And when I needed a chapter book, when I decided I need to make a chapter book about the Lunar New Year, I went to ask my sister's daughters. I was like, hey, can you help me with this story? Because I haven't read enough chapter books to know what makes a great story for 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. My experience is very younger picture book, but I want to do this right. So we brainstormed our story together, and she helped me write a lot of the text in there, and we came up with the story together. So Lori, who is the main character in the book, is also I gave her a lot of credit in the copyright page. So if you have a little one at home who's 10, 11, 12 and want to do something like that, it's totally possible. Just for anyone who's listening out there, But the story is about two girls celebrating the Lunar New Year. They spend a whole morning collecting red envelopes, going to see their relatives, going to see their grandma. And each time they see someone, they said, Happy Lunar New Year. They get a red envelope with money. And they're trying to save up all this money to buy something for their grandma. And the little one, her name is Wayna, and she is responsible for keeping all the red envelopes safe. But after a whole morning of festivities, she realized she lost it all. She lost the bag that she was holding that held all of the red envelopes. So what happened to them? What happens between the two sisters? And what are they going to say to their parents? And how are they going to recover it, if they recover it at all? And you know what, Jet? It was so interesting because I was just at the school assembly, and they said, why don't you talk about the chapter book for my 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders? And I was just thinking, I am not going to be reading this whole chapter book, which is like 5,000 words in 30 minutes, and talk about this in a school assembly. So I gave them the same exact pitch that I just gave you about this book, and they were all like, oh, you can't leave us hanging now. But that's the story, and everyone's going to have to read it to find out what happens.
Well, I love mysteries. I love, reading a story that's like, has that whodunit, what happened to it. And, I've loved it since I was a little kid. I remember when I was in, elementary school, there was a series, called the Todd Moran Mysteries. And I think they were written in the...
I don't know that one.
They were written in the 40s and the 50s. So I'm sure they're not around anymore. But it was great. It was about this young guy who went around the world in merchant ships and whatnot. But it was just that whole, what happened? Who's the bad guy? Where did the treasure go? Where did this go? Where are the people? And that sounds exactly what's going on in the missing red envelopes. And so I can understand why that audience was enthralled and really anxious to find out what happened.
It was so cool for me to see their reactions, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. There's got to be like 400 or 500 of them, right, at the school assembly. And when I said it there, and they just kind of like was listening to me, I read the first 2 chapters and I stopped. They were just like hooked, and I thought, oh my goodness, I am so glad that I got that kind of response. I mean, I had to say, please be kind to me. This is my first time reading it, blah, blah, blah. And they were such great kids, and they were just like giving me a lot of confidence that my first tab and chapter books could possibly work. And they were like, what happened to book 2, book 3, book 4? And I was like, oh my gosh, these kids are so encouraging and they're so kind. And it's got me going like, okay, maybe I got to write the 2nd, 3rd, 4th book. But writing chapter books is a bit harder because the story now has to be, it's kind of flow. I'm not finishing a book in 200 words or 300 words, right? This is like 5,000. So I'm like, you got to give me another year here.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that this, especially the story of reading the book to an audience of 500 kids, it just reminds me of how important it is to continue to read with our kids once they're able to read on their own. A lot of families, and I know myself, I was kind of guilty of this. It was like, I love reading to the kids, but they can read on their own now, so I need to step back and let them grow.
Oh my, you are absolutely right. I have a 5-year-old and she started reading, and she's reading like early chapter books now. And I was like, yes, my job is done, And then when she's like, Mom, can you read this for me? Can I read this for me? I'm like, can you read it yourself? And then when I read it to the 300-400 children and I saw their face, and I come home that night and I said, hey, would you like me to read with you? She said, yes. They still want you to read with them. Yeah. So it's not like just reading with them. So now she will read one page and I'll read a page, and she'll read a page and I'll read a page. And if there's a character, we'll play it out. Like the way she reads it, she's really imitating me, or kind of like I'm role modeling how to read in different sounds for the different characters, and how to act like I'm angry when the line shows that she's angry, I'm sad when it's sad. So they're learning all of that from us. So even at 5, I feel like even when they were 10, it's just fun. I think making reading fun is a key here to encourage reading.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If the kids are loving reading with you and they're having fun reading with you, it's a way better chance that they're going to fall in love with reading themselves and continue to be lifelong readers and learners.
Yes, I want to share a story here. I don't mean to like take over your podcast. When my daughter was 2, I met this older woman, and she didn't really speak English very well, but she has twin daughters, and I learned that one of them went to Harvard and the other one went to a very prestigious college too. And she never mentioned it. She's very humble. And I said, what is your trick? What did you do? Can you give me some tips that I can help my daughter with? You know? And she says, well, I didn't even speak English very well. We didn't have money. I don't have any tricks. The only thing I could afford to do was take them to libraries. Mm-hmm. Like she took them to libraries every single day because it was a safe place. They have bathroom there. They have books there. They have like toys there. So every day she spent the first 5 years of her life in libraries. And I said, wow. So all they did was read. She was like, yes, we didn't really have TVs or iPads or anything. We didn't have that choice. So they read, and she just kind of sat next to them and hear them tell the stories because she couldn't read. Mm-hmm. And look at that. Look at her 2 daughters. So that's my biggest takeaway from her, who's a good friend of mine now. And all I do when we have some time is take my little girl to the library, and we just sit there for an hour and we read. She'll read her book and I will read my book. Mm-hmm. And even if I'm not reading the book, I'm just pretending like I'm holding the book and I'm just reading it. So she sees that we're reading, and we're reading together. So I'm reading with my kid.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so very, very important. Yobe, can you talk a little bit, because we love to celebrate the fact that books can be mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. Can you talk a little bit about why it's important for a kid to be able to see themselves in the pages of books?
I think it's so important for kids to see themselves in the pages of books because that's how you learn about to be proud of your culture, your traditions. When they see their traditions celebrated with their whole class. So when a teacher is reading about Hanukkah, or it's Black History Month now, reading about amazing African Americans who helped this country become even better today, they feel the sense of pride. And seeing, and when teachers are reading books like The Missing Red Envelopes, other children will start saying, oh, that's so cool. Even a comment like that, oh, that's so cool. Oh, I've seen it before. It makes the person who's being represented in the story feel so proud of who they are. They learn to celebrate these things. They learn to celebrate themselves, their identity, their communities. And it just makes the world a much better place when our stories are very inclusive and diverse.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And at the same token, I think that the Missing Red Envelopes will be such a beautiful thing to have in any family library because it gives kids a glance into a culture that they may not be familiar with.
Absolutely. It's very interesting because at the assembly that I went 2 days ago, we also had kindergarten to 2nd grade for one of the sessions. And I said, what is this? And I held a red envelope. And something that I thought everyone would know about. Mm-hmm. It's a red envelope. And I feel everyone should know this. This is like not a trick question. I said, do you know what this is? I'm going to pass it around here. And it's a pretty diverse community too. And a lot of the children held it and they had no idea what it is. They didn't know that you open the flap and there's an envelope and there's something that goes in. They had no idea. They didn't even know how to open the flap. So we passed our envelopes around and it was so nice to see. And the principal was there and the PTA president was there. The PTA president was the one that brought us in. And they kind of saw it, and we all had this light bulb moment go off, and we said, wow, something that we just kind of assumed people knew, the other ones did not know. The 2nd graders, the 1st graders, and the kindergarten, some of them just didn't know what they are. So I think that was a beautiful example of having books like this in their libraries, in their classrooms, having someone to come in and talk to them about this, kind of seeing it and feeling it, and learning about something that we and the Asian community thought that it's super common, but people also just didn't know.
Right, right. And, you know, it just reminds us there's so many things that we take for granted here that are part of our family's culture and history that we just take for granted. We assume that everybody knows about. A lot of those things, if you go to Asia, you go to Africa, go to different parts of the world, people are like, well, what's going on? Why are you doing
Right.
that? And it's a great way for us to learn and grow closer as a human family.
I cannot agree more.
Yeah. You are doing so many things. It's amazing. You're a mom. You're a wife. You have these businesses. There's so much going on. And, I know in the future we're going to be talking about one of the projects that you're working on. But can you just, first off, where do you get the energy? And where do you get the extra time? Do you have like a red envelope that gives you a few extra hours every day that you're able to do all this work in?
That would be so cool, wouldn't it? If I just get something to give me an extra day. I think I just manage my time really very well in terms of if I have an hour here, about an hour there, I'm very focused on one task and just getting it done. But I also have really great people, really, really great people helping me with a lot of my projects. And one of my projects that Jet knows, and we haven't shared it with anyone yet. So anyone listening, you're the first to know. We have the honor to invite Jet to our mini summit in Toronto. We host these indie author summits where we bring out the best speakers, the coolest people, and then the community of authors to come and listen and get inspired and get information and make connections with other people to help grow our craft and grow the business and sell more books and make better books. And Jed is going to be with us for one of the summits in the fall, and that's super exciting. But that takes a lot of work. That takes a lot of time of like talking about the topics you're going to speak about, finding the space, finding time to like get the whole day of technology set up, who's going to do what. But when you have great people that can count on, that you can count on, that kind of knows how to help you and want the best for the event, the project, it all just kind of flows. Yeah. I think this is just like anything that you do. You're working with humans here. You communicate what you think, and then you ask them to help you, and then you show appreciation. And there's no magic trick here. A lot of it is everyone kind of pull in an hour or two of their time, and things get done. Mm-hmm. That's how we do it.
Yeah. And I love that this summit that you're putting together and that I'm so excited to be a part of. You know, when you talk about self-published authors and indie authors, it sounds like such a lonely pursuit. And it sounds like, I have to do everything on my own. And it's like, no, there's lots of folks out there that can team up. You're still an indie author, but there are people out there who can help you show the way and help you with the many different tasks you need to do.
Yes. And I was just driving the other day and I was thinking, I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed to have the kind of results that I have, because I know there's so many authors out there who find it very challenging and who has not recouped their investment and their time and their money. And I know so many of those. And I was just thinking, what caused my results that I'm very lucky to have? And it's the people that I've met along the way. It's people like you. It's people that have helped me with my cover, who have helped show me who to call when I need a good editor, who has given me a lot of good feedback, who have brought me onto the stage of places to speak. So just connecting with someone else and working together. It's like when you're trying to train for a marathon, it's hard to do it on your own. But if you have like 2 or 3 people who is like, oh, I did 1 mile today. Oh, I drank some water today. Oh, well, I didn't do anything. I slept. But it's okay. Tomorrow you get back up. It's having that group of cheerleaders around you that will help propel you to the end, help you see it through. But it's lonely to find these people, right? We don't know places that we can just go and meet everyone. So we do these kind of summits where we bring a big group of folks out so we can meet everyone in one day.
Yeah, that's really super. And I also know that you are very involved in helping schools and daycare centers have book fairs. Are you able to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I love how Jet knows everything I'm doing more than I feel like I don't even know what I'm doing now. I can't really think about things to say. So thank you. We host book fairs for preschools, and we have a big public school book fair coming up in Seattle, and we do it in a few cities. We do it in Boston, Seattle, Los Angeles, New York, and New Jersey. So a lot of the smaller preschool centers don't have book fairs, but they have these like sheet order forms. The kids can go home and order their book, but we want to bring the experience to these little friends who I want them to see books. I want them to see books on tables that set up. The parents can buy some books, and the school usually gets some books donated to their libraries or a small fund to cover their petty cash or something like that. But we go in and we host school book fairs, much like the book fairs that other companies have been hosting, and they all shop books. It's a huge literacy event for teachers to come out and look for books that they want. And the good thing about this is we put some of the traditional published titles in there, but we also bring some indie published titles in there as well. This way, we give visibility to good, great books that are written by indie authors who may not have that platform to showcase their books. Just kind of putting their books in the school book fairs allows teachers and directors and parents to kind of see it and pick it up and decide to buy it, and now gets their book into homes and libraries a lot more than what they would typically do online. So that's one of the projects. But we are also building a tech platform. We haven't announced the name yet, but it's going to launch in April, and they're also hearing it here first. I'm saving all the good things for this podcast, Jet. I've thought about making this tech platform, and I have no experience in technology. I know nothing about how this is going to work. But again, I've met some really cool people, and they know what they're doing. And I say, hey, can you help me with this? This is my idea. And sometimes you just have one idea, and you find the right people, and they'll do it for you. And the idea is connecting authors with schools on this tech platform where they can start messaging each other. We're going to get thousands of schools signed up. We're going to get tens of thousands of people onto this platform, and Jed is going to learn all about that, and Jed's going to be very key part here to help us talk to schools about it, because he goes to all of these great conferences. And the authors can now connect with the schools directly. The schools can find these authors by searching zip code, by searching gender, by searching how far you're willing to travel, their budget. If they only have the budget for $250, they don't have to email 5 authors to see who can do it for $250, right? So they can just go to this platform and search by budget, zip code, any filters they want, and then connect with an author. And the author will say, sure, I can do on this date, blah, blah, blah. It's going to make this process so much easier, because, Jed, let me tell you, I had such a hard time connecting with schools, just going back and forth, emailing about dates, about rates, about what do you want, about time, about how far willing to travel, virtual or in person. When you just kind of showcase all of that, they can choose who they want, and you can click accept or deny, and it's so much easier. The payment is also going to be happening on this platform, so the schools will pay, and we'll hold the deposit and the fees, and when the author does it, the money goes straight to the author. It's going to make this whole process so much easier, going from discovery to payment. And we think this is going to really help this entire industry, especially for people without agents, without representatives, because a lot of us do not. We don't have someone speaking on our behalf, pitching to schools all the time. This is something you have to do on your own. So we lack this platform, and it's been 3-4 years. It can't be this hard for us. So I think if I build this thing, we can all benefit from it.
Yeah, it's a really, really great idea. There are similar platforms for performers that are out there, and it just makes sense to create something specifically for authors in schools looking to bring an author into their classrooms. So much going on with you in your life, Yobe. Where can everybody go to find out more about the Missing Red Envelopes and find out all these amazing things that you're part of?
They can email me anytime at hello@buyyobeqiu.com. They can find me on my website. It's Yobe, Y-O-B-E, last name Qiu, Qiu.com, and there's a contact form there. I'm also on Facebook with my name, and I'm also on Instagram at Yobe Qiu. It's literally my first name and last name. And I'm happy to connect with anyone.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of The Missing Red Envelopes. It's the debut chapter book from our dear friend, Yobe Qiu. Hey, Yobe, thanks so much for being back with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I love coming here.
This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Lucas and the Game of Chance, a thrilling middle grade novel written by Anthony L. Mena. It is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. While Lucas is playing his flute at the seawall one day, he befriends a mysterious talking dancing snake that rewards him with fortune and favor. Some years later, tempted by greed and pride, Lucas loses all of his riches and his family. He now must set off on a treacherous journey through a frightening forest filled with suspense and strange creatures. To find Destiny, her son, Ilion, the sun, her daughter, Luna, the moon. These celestial guardians will surely allow him to reverse his misfortune, restore his honor, and win back all that he loves and treasures. Won't they? This is a reimagined Greek folk tale, Lucas in the Game of Chance. It's illuminated with dramatic and evocative pen and ink drawings that provide an ideal backdrop to the dark intrigue that fills this haunting story of human struggle, courage, and resilience. You and your kids are going to love it. Lucas and the Game of Chance by Anthony L. Mena. It is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by the books by Robert Provan, Sammy and Scarlett's Mangrove Adventure and Sammy and Scarlett's Coral Reef Adventure. The first book in the series, Mangrove Adventure, recounts the tale of two young fish who live in a tidal pool in the Florida Keys. Sammy is a sergeant major fish, and Scarlett is a yellow-tailed snapper. They are different species from one another, and they don't look anything alike. But despite this, they become best of friends. They learn that it's not the color of the fish's scales that matters, but rather whether or not they have a loving heart. Sammy and Scarlett's Coral Reef Adventure is the second book in the series and tells the story of Sammy and Scarlett's continuing journey from the shelter of the mangrove forest in search of their adult home on the coral reef. The two fish are befriended along the way by Howie, the hawk-billed sea turtle, who helps them through the dangers they will face ahead. Together, the three explore the amazing underwater city that is a coral reef. You and your family are going to love these books. Check them out today. The Books by Robert Provan. Before we invite our next guest into the studio, we want to let you know that we have a brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Charlie Chalusi is often quite choosy, written by Brad Mason, has received 5 stars from our certified great read panel, and we are happy to add it to our certified great read Hall of Fame. This is a delightful children's book that explores the theme of embracing new experiences and overcoming fears. The charming rhymes and playful illustrations make it an engaging read for everyone. The story revolves around Charlie, a little boy who has a penchant for being choosy in various aspects of his life. From his food preferences to his favorite clothes, Charlie sticks to what he knows best. The narrative clearly weaves in the challenges Charlie faces, such as making new friends and trying new activities, adding depth to the character. The character development in the book is heartwarming as Charlie embarks on a journey of self-discovery. Brad Mason skillfully conveys the message that while having preferences is okay, trying new things can lead to wonderful surprises and personal growth. Our team absolutely loved the transformation they experienced. Watching Charlie go from a selective and hesitant individual to somebody willing to take chances, it was inspiring and relatable. We just loved it. Charlie Chalusi is often quite choosy. It's not just a story. It's an invitation for children to reflect on their own likes and dislikes and consider trying new things. With its encouraging and uplifting tone, this book is a valuable addition to any children's library, promoting the importance of curiosity, courage, and self-discovery. Brad Mason's storytelling and the whimsical illustrations bring Charlie's world to life in a way that captivates young imaginations and leaves them with a valuable lesson about embracing the joy of new experiences. Congratulations to Brad Mason. Charlie Chalusi is often quite choosy is our latest Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Parents, if you would like to read our entire review of Charlie Chalusi, please go to readingwithyourkids.com and click on the Parents Click Here button to find our blog. And authors, if you are interested in submitting your book to our Certified Great Read panel, please be sure to go to readingwithyourkids.com and click on the Authors Click Here button up at the top of the page. This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Becoming Strong by Anandamoy Baker. Becoming Strong is an illustrated children's chapter book about an adorable little bee named Jazzienza, who has a bent antenna and must wear glasses. She gets bullied at times, and through the sage advice of Mama Queensy Bee, the queen bee, she learns to become strong, confident, and kind. The book not only helps children learn breathing techniques to deal with anxiety, but also enables them to connect on a deeper level with nature. In addition, a clear message in the book is that we are all important and valuable, and our lives have meaning no matter our size. Becoming Strong is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read and would be a fantastic addition to any family library. Join us right now from Houston in the great state of Texas. Our guest is here today to celebrate. His new novel is called Kili and Nakoa. Please welcome to the show, Connor Derelioglu. Hey, Connor, how are you?
Hey, Jed. Nice to meet you. Really, really excited. Looking forward to get to do this for sure.
Well, I'm excited to have you on. I'm excited to learn all about Kili and Nakoa. Tell us all about the book, please.
Yeah, so kind of short synopsis is it's a story about a young boy who goes surfing one day, and he experiences this older man who's surfing who's just doing a much better job than him. And so kind of unpack that a little bit. You know, when you go surfing, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. And especially so for me, I grew up on the Texas coast, and surfing here is real hit or miss. You can drive down with your buddies, and sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. You know, and so when you get out there, there's this real choppiness, and you got to learn how to embrace that a little bit. And so in the story, this young boy Kili tries to go out surfing one day by himself, and it's real choppy. And he's just like, man, I'm going to go home. You know, this is dumb. I'm done with this type thing. And this old man is out there just ripping it up, just doing a great job. And so Kili is just, his interest is piqued, you know, and so he approaches the old man and asks him, like, hey, how'd you do this type thing, you know? And so throughout the little nuances of the story and the little interactions that they have, there's some real beautiful, in my opinion, depictions of the ins and outs of that relationship between a young person and an older person who's walked through something that they haven't maybe before. And Nakoa really teaches them how to embrace the chop, so to speak. And that applies in a lot of areas, I think, as well.
I really love celebrating books that feature intergenerational relationships. I don't think that they're typically encouraged here in the United States as much as they are encouraged in other parts of the world. Is that something that you have observed?
Yeah, absolutely. So my family background is Turkish. My dad is Turkish. I spend a little bit of time over there once a year. And in different parts of the world, there definitely is a greater reverence for the older population. You know, and I think that really comes from the other side of our family on my dad's side, who we really revere those who have come before us and who have learned, and we want to learn from them, right? I want to take that knowledge and kind of swallow my pride a little bit and hear what they have to say, you know?
Yeah, you know, we always joke, parents always joke about, you know, kids learning the birds and the bees, learning about sex on the playground. And, you know, the kids come home and they tell you, I remember my son when he was in middle school. I mean, the stuff that I used to hear that his friends would talk to him about, I'm like going, dude, Not even close. So, so we know in that area the kids are not getting great information. And, so we're always encouraged to talk to our kids about those difficult subjects. And we don't carry that on. Kids go to college and they're with their peers, and that's it. So you have a bunch of 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 18-year-olds. They're all together. They're all talking to each other, and they don't all have a lot of experience in the world. And so they're sharing, somebody might know, maybe read a book and a half about something, and they're the expert. Meanwhile, they have these people in their families that have lived lives, and started businesses, had families, had all this different experience, and our young people aren't encouraged to get to know them and to to learn from that wisdom.
Yeah, we brushed it off. So for frame of reference, I'm 22 years old. I'm a senior in college. I will graduate in May. I can tell you from my perspective how easy it is to sit around with a group of your buddies and think you've got the world figured out, and everything is exactly because my 18-year-old buddy said he saw it somewhere on the news or on social media. That's the cold hard truth, And so for me, I grew up in a family, immediate family, I should say, my mom and my dad and my brother, where we don't sugarcoat anything. And it has been, when I was a child, obviously I was kind of tough, but like, that as an adult, it is such a blessing to have the confidence from my parents to say, like, hey, this is what we believe, and I'm sorry if that challenges your perspective, and I used to hate when they said this when I was a kid. They were like, I know you hate this, but there is some degree where we just have more life experience, and that was so hard for me to get as a child, but now I feel like I really understand, like, yeah, you do have way more life experience than me. And so there's some things that I can understand. I feel like there's a few things that I've kind of got a grasp on throughout my life, but for the most part, I have so much learning to do. And I do wish that as a society, we had more reverence for those who come before us, like you're saying.
Yeah. It's, I think one of the reasons I started the Reading with Your Kids podcast is to kind of foster that. If our kids grow up with us reading with them and we continue to read with them throughout their childhood, not just when they're 5 and 6 years old and learning how to read, and then we walk away from them when they become independent readers, but continue to read with them and co-read with them and have conversations, because those conversations that you're having about a book turn into a conversation about a TV show that you watch, or a movie, or music that you're listening to, or a news story that's happening, or something that's happening in school. As someone who's a lot closer to a 10-year-old than I am, would you say that I'm right in that thinking, that if a 10-year-old is comfortable speaking with their family about a character in a book, they may be more comfortable talking about what's going on in school and asking questions?
Well, yeah, and to be frank, that's why in the back of Kili and Nakoa, I included some discussion questions to promote these conversations within the house and outside of the home. What a great translation of having the hard conversations within your family. Because if you can't have them within your families, how is it going to translate to the rest of the world? How is it going to translate to where we all become collective, productive beings, respectful of one another in a society that operates really, really well,
Yeah. That brings up an interesting question. One of the things that we've talked about here on the podcast is that it seems as if our society has lost the ability to agree to disagree. That, if you're on a different team than me, then I can't talk to you. Am I just a nearly 100-year-old guy just complaining, or are you seeing that as a young person yourself?
No, now look, I've got a buddy who is now my roommate, who we are pretty different on some levels, some pretty deep levels. We're also very, very similar in a lot of ways. I think the world of this guy. But at the end of the day, like, you kind of have to get to that point where it's like, hey, you were raised differently than me. I was raised differently than you. We have our own colliding perspectives that we bring into relationships. So I agree. I agree that there is a little bit of lost sense of that. But that's why when you find people like that, you got to hold them close, you know?
So what can we do to help our kids understand that? How can we help them get to the point where they can sit down and disagree about religion or about politics, but be able to look through that and see the beauty inside that person?
Well, it's a fundamental value, in my opinion. I really believe that it is not something that you do one day. Like, I believe that it is a constant repetition of repeating the value to your children. And so I think in a long roundabout way to answer your question, I think what's so important is probably to teach kids that we're human beings and we're on this journey called life. And there will be ups and downs and ins and outs and everything, every sense of the word, you know. For me personally, that's how I see it, is we have to be able to give one another grace in this life, you know.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. You are preaching to the choir. What is next for you? You wrote a book. You're a senior in college. You're writing a kid's book. Most folks in a senior year in college probably are dreaming someday of becoming a published author. Is this something that you've always wanted to do, and do you think it's something that you'll continue to do into the future?
It was not something I always wanted to do. I actually nearly failed high school, mostly writing and reading classes and math classes I really struggled with. I have severe learning disorders that really impaired my ability to do well in those classes. And heck, I'm even really struggling with college. But I love this. Like, I have been surprised myself of, I don't know if you ever, like, for me, I'm in this position in my life where I've questioned the past 5 years, what am I going to do with my life? And I kind of feel like I was made for this, honestly. Like, I love sitting talking to people. I've got an idea for something else that's kind of been brewing for a couple of years. I haven't put it on pen and paper yet. I like to think about things for a really long time before I actually do them, you know, which is actually kind of the opposite of what happened with this book. If y'all are interested in hearing that story, it's written down on the back of Kili and Nakoa. Yeah. So what's next is I graduate college. I'm probably going to move back to my parents' house. Probably going to start working with my dad and his company, and probably try and do the same thing that he does. Honestly, I've looked up to him my whole life, and so I don't see why I would want to do anything else unless this takes off and I get to pursue this as a full-time career. Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's I respect that. And I'm going to tell you the secret. You were talking about, you know, you look back and you think, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do with my life? I'm almost 100. I'm still asking myself that question. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. This has really been fascinating. You know, you said, and I appreciate you sharing with us that, you know, you've had some learning difficulties, and it was a struggle to get through high school, a struggle to get through college. What gave you the strength and resilience to keep the struggle going when you could have easily said, like a lot of people, like, I'm out. This is too hard for me.
I believe that God has provided me people in my life like my mom, who countless times has said, no, you can do hard things. Like, this is how she has taught me to think about life, is we do hard things because we're capable, because God has given us the strength to do that. Because not only for ourselves, but the impact that we can make on others. It's a real struggle for me. And that being said, I really think my mom is my backbone in that. My relationship with the Lord, my dad, looking at people like my younger brother has autism. He lives every day to the fullest. Like, he gives his all in everything he does. And they're my inspiration for everything that I do, you know.
Well, that's a wonderful answer. I love what your mom taught you. You can do hard things. And I think that is a great lesson that all parents can share with their kids. And I think it's a great lesson that we could share with our kids while we're reading or co-reading and talking about Kili and Nakoa with our kids. Where can people go to find out more about you and find out more about your book?
Yeah, so you can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. Mascot.com is the main place that's available for pre-order right now. Also, hit up my social media. I don't know if my name will be in the show notes, but Connor Derelioglu. I would love to, it would make me so happy to have to answer 100 DMs a day, it's my passion to get to talk to people about what I love to do, so.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Kili and Nakoa. Our guest has been Connor Derelioglu. If you are a new Reading with Your Kids listener, we want to say welcome to the show. And we want to let you know that we have over 1,900 episodes. Interviews with fascinating guests that we'd love for you to check out. Interviews with people you may know, like LeVar Burton. Here's a quick preview of our conversation that happened back in 2018. I hear so much passion in your voice as you're speaking about this. How did you become such a passionate advocate for
reading? My mother, Irma Jean Christian, was an English teacher, and then subsequently a social worker. My mom was my first teacher, and I was really lucky, Jed, in that I grew up in a household where reading was highlighted. We took 2 daily newspapers when I was a kid. I saw my mother always reading a book in her spare time. In her leisure time, she was always reading books and juggling oftentimes between 2 or 3 novels. My mom was a voracious reader. And so I grew up with that very important modeling that reading and literature were a normal part of human existence, an important part of human existence. And I know that indoctrination has had a major impact on my life, and a large part of my life and career has been trying to share that truth with other people, particularly kids, particularly children. I believe that literacy is the birthright of every single human being. And if you can read in at least one language, then you are, in my estimation, well on your way to being free, an emancipated human being, free of the restrictions of getting your information solely from other people. As a literate person, as a reader, you can seek out answers to the questions your curiosity causes you to create in your mind. And there are no limits to what you can discover through the written word.
If you would like to listen to our entire conversation with LeVar or any of our past episodes, you can find them at readingwithyourkids.com. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. Please be sure to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at readingwithyourkids on Instagram and TikTok, and at JedleyMagic on Twitter. We have a great YouTube channel, youtube.com/readingwithyourkids. And we would love for you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Check out our blog, download our free online magazine, visit our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read Hall of Fame, and use the contact button at the top of the page. Just send us a message. Let us know what you love about the show. Let us know what we could be doing better, and let us know who you would like to hear on a future episode of the show. Hey, and if you are an author, please be sure to click the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page to find out how you can be a guest. Being a guest is fun, it's easy, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands of Kidlit fans all over the world about your great kids' books. You can also learn about our effective and affordable promotional services. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our amazing guests, Yobe Qiu and Connor Derelioglu. I also want to thank our amazing sponsors, And, of course, I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Chris Doherty, Skylar Strauss, Nick Warner, Kyoko Ito, Kayla Newland, Kristen Barrett, Sydney Swan, Hannah Rose. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me, but most of all, and I mean it, most of all, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Thank you so much for taking the time to tell your family and friends about the show. But most of all, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every single time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
Oh,